So, what have we forgotten how to do? I'm sure a lot of us have come to the realization at certain points during this stay at home that there's certain things that we've forgotten to do. Or even just haven't done as much. And now that we have a lot of free time, those things can come into focus a little bit easier. Something like this right here. I ain't doing nothing but sitting out in the sunshine. It's relaxing. Getting some fresh air. When I was younger, during a period when I was lost, I can distinctly remember looking out of a window, unable to access fresh air, sunshine, missing the simple things like the smell of fresh cut grass, even nature, like right now, just listening to the birds sing, you know. And prior to this, like it's easier to get caught up in just living a life, doing the day-to-day things that we did on a daily basis, and forget about the things that don't cost anything, that are free, that are sometimes the most valuable, man. And those days in my young adulthood, I was so blind that I traded some of the most joyful things in life for temporary things. And it was never more apparent until my freedom was gone that those things were meaningless. That's what's so crazy about how life works, how the journey goes. You know? Because at those ages, you feel like, like, I got everything figured out. I know what I'm doing. I know my goals. I know what I want out of life, etc., etc. And the reason why I'm reflecting on that now is just because I've heard a lot of people use a phrase or thinking along these lines. Oh, this stay-at-home situation is like being in jail. And it's obvious to me, like, anyone who even thinks that or says that has never experienced that, you know? Like, even on a trivial scale, like a night in the drunk tank or something, like, that's enough for you to realize, like, was that worth it, you know? I think that's an interesting thing about these times is observing each individual as they go through these things, how they perceive it, how they cope with it, you know? I think only with these years of experience and wisdom being either lucky enough or blessed enough, depending on how you view it, to be able to get to this point, to be able to have those realizations. You know, because I do think of my family members and my friends that have lost their lives, that had they only gotten the opportunity to live a little longer, that they may have recognized some of the same things that I did, you know. In the past, it was like a bitter pill, but it gives me comfort because I believe their spirit and how the universe works is, if I keep them in my heart, if I keep them in my mind, and I live my life as best I can, that they can live through me in their memory. You know. A lot of these things are integral to even figuring this out, you know. I know there was plenty of times where I never entertained having a normal life. You know, I had one focus, and it was all an illusion. You know, but that's the beautiful thing about aging. You know, if you are in tune with self-improvement and introspection, you can adjust things, you know, make little tweaks and changes to your program so that in this simulation we call life, that you can find alternative paths, you know. Because prescribing yourself ahead of time to things like destiny, you know, you end up selling yourself short, man, because if you go through things like, okay, my mission statement, my goal is to do X, Y, and Z. So for some person, it may be being in tune with their job and their work ethic and what do they do to improve that. For another person, it may be parenting. You know, how can I, through being a good parent, give my child a comfortable life? For some, better than they may have had. That may be their focus, you know. Unfortunately, like, sometimes sometimes things are already in motion or happening before you realize, like, okay, this is not the right route, or this is not the right thing, this is not good. And I feel like for my cousin, for my best friend, for some of my homeboys, that having that all happen in a moment, with the inability to have hindsight, you know, being one left, a survivor, sometimes makes you look at things pragmatically, break things down, separate them, along with trying to compartmentalize things like grief. They help you. Because I can tell you, man, like, I was never thinking when I was a knucklehead running the streets, like, just sitting in the sun looking at my pits and drinking some water and hitting the vape was something that would be valuable to me. You know? But that's why this experience is a teacher, you know? Look at this knucklehead. Steady eating grass. Gonna have a stomach ache and I'm gonna have to deal with it. Like, no matter what I do, I can't get him to quit. Although, I gotta Google that. Like, why is dogs obsessed with grass? They ain't sick. They healthy in the mud. Got food in the house and everything. But sometimes I reflect on the people that are still here with me as well, you know, like, I wish that I could impart things to them, you know, like through these videos too. But it's unfortunate that we have such a self-centered, self-focused society that a lot of us don't look to each other for lessons or tidbits. We, you know, a lot of us through cognitive dissonance just disregard advice or suggestions from other people just because we have that sense of individuality that dictates, this is my journey, this is my ride, I make these choices, and which to a certain extent is true, but some of the most tangible progress I've made as a human being has come from learning from other people, you know, because when I was arrested for a felony at 13, I had no choice but to learn from other people, you know, because it was crystal clear, like, whatever I was doing, whatever ideas I had, it wasn't it, you know. Luckily for me, the case got kicked down. And you know, like, it is remarkable how things like that work, because a large swath of my trajectory could have been different had I not had the system not chosen to kick that down to a misdemeanor. And I had a public pretender too, so that's amazing. But fast forward 27 years, and it gives you that clarity that you don't have in that moment, you know, without experience. Because I got friends and family members that made similar mistakes or worse mistakes and had things change so drastically that it shrank their options, you know. And anybody that's grown up in the city knows what I'm talking about. You know, like things that I was picked to do, you know, like going to college. Had those circumstances not changed for me in that situation, I'd have never been able to go to college. And there are different schools of thought on that where some people say it's worthless, other people say it's big for them. I fall in the group of the latter. Because getting that education that I should have gotten when after high school, it made me realize, like, man, if I wouldn't have dropped out and decided that I wanted to live in an amalgamation of New Jack City, Boys the Hood, Menace to Society, and a Tupac album, that my whole experience and my whole understanding of things could have been a lot different. But this rumination doesn't stem from regret, you know, because that's one of the most toxic things you can have in your life is regret. And in all honesty, I have my health. I have people that I love, people that I care about, that feel the same about me. And that allows you to bring things full circle, man. Because what's behind you, the past, is a memory. It doesn't exist, you know? So looking over your shoulder, trying to go back to the future like Marty McFly, does you nothing good. Shh! Hey! Sophia! And getting, you know, lost, only focusing on the future, only driven by what I can attain, what things can happen for me in the future. That's a dream because it hasn't happened yet. And like some of these things that I've discussed, all we have is this moment. Now you can use those things from your past to inform you. And you can use potentiality for your future to shape decisions that you make now that have the possibility of affecting change in the future. But neither of those are as important as the now. Because we're taught in school that time is linear. Our experience is linear. You know, but what if it's not? Anyway, philosophy class at the picnic table is about to draw to a close.